So this was an adventure. And without further ado, let's get into this. This is Cannon's bullpen yesterday. Anybody that knows Cannon knows that Cannon is not an 85.8 guy. He's throws much better than that, much harder than that. So numbers were a little bit down. And today I dug in to try to figure out why. And this was interesting. And we definitely got to the bottom of some things. And I'll get into explaining that in just a second. So let's just watch this. This is from yesterday. And at first glance, I'm like, man, that looks clean. I don't see much wrong in that. However, luckily, we have some video footage of a bullpen where his numbers were pretty significantly higher. And I'll just play this. Okay. Now what I did was I took screenshots of his delivery from both clips at the same point in time regarding certain things. And the first screenshot I took a picture of was the point where his hands began to come together. Right there. See how his hands begin to come together? Now, overall, this is what I found here is not going to have much impact in what we ended up finding. But just so you can see what I'm talking about, there was yesterday compared to earlier a couple weeks ago. And the one difference I found here was that he's already sitting more into that back leg in yesterday's clip. He's already got some flexion in that back leg, whereas in the better bullpen, he's a little bit taller. But like I said, overall, not much of an impact on the outcome and what we discovered. Now, the next phase of the delivery, this is in the process of the dry phase. And I took screenshots of both bullpens where his upper half was in the same exact position. And I believe it was when his throwing arm started to swing up in the scap load. That's when we took a screenshot. That's when I snagged this still image. So you can see from this clip and from this clip how his arms are in the same exact position. Glove side up. Throwing arm has just started to move into scap load. So upper half, same exact position. Lower half, once again, at first glance, it looks pretty similar. If anything, there's a better, he's holding a back leg load a little bit better in this clip. However, look at his front foot. This is where we started to make some progress in experimenting with some things today. His front foot in this picture is already starting to open up. It's already starting to open up towards home plate. And your front foot is a cue for what's happening with your front hip, essentially. So this means his front hip might be going a little bit early. Whereas if we look at earlier in the year, I mean, it's not the best picture image, but I can kind of see his front knee, front foot, how it's still a little bit closed off there. He still has that front hip loaded. Now, here's the thing. If you can conserve that energy into later into the delivery, then when that front hip finally does go, it's going to come through much quicker, and that rubber band effect is going to be much snappier. So it's very faint, but you can see right there his front foot starting to open up. Whereas here, not the best picture quality, but you can definitely tell that his front hip is still closed off a little bit. This is where we end up making a lot of progress in the overall outcome of what we found. And another place we stopped it was at front foot contact. As soon as that front foot made contact with the ground, let's look and see where things are. And this was another thing that I noticed was substantially different. Now, everything happens so fast at this point in the delivery. When the top half starts to come through, I mean, the smallest difference, and when I take this screenshot, will make a huge difference in what we see. But the better image, once again, not the best picture quality, his top half is still more loaded here. It's there's a little bit more separation. Shoulders are more closed off, whereas here starting to open up a little bit. But like I said, everything happens so fast at this point in the delivery that it's kind of hard to tell. Okay. But nonetheless, like I said, there's definitely more separation here. Lower half is identical in these two clips. More hip shoulder separation in this clip, which is when the velo was up. Now let's fast forward to, and that was at ball release. Once again, not much difference there. Really good extension though. Really good forward extension. Now let's go to today. This is trying to fix some things. He said his arm felt good, so like, hey, whenever your arm feels good, whenever the arm feels good, take advantage of it. Let's see if we can't work on some things. And this was a drill we did to work on this position. Okay, so look at his legs here. Look at the hips are already, this is the position in the delivery where the hips are already opened up, and we want that top half to stay closed. So let's go back to this drill. This drill simulates where you want to be at front foot strike. So we've got the hips opened up, which is what happens at front foot strike. And this drill presets the top half to be closed off. So you're forcing your top half to stay closed off in the front foot strike. So there you see front foot strike, much more separation here. Let me stop that so you can see what I'm saying. Front foot touches down right there. Compare that to that. See how the chest is already starting to open up forward, whereas here, front foot strike, much more separation. So that's the point of this drill, is to feel that top half staying closed off into front foot strike. So that was, and his numbers were not much different from this drill compared to when we allowed him to use the lower half completely instead of just opening up his hips and taking away that aspect of the delivery altogether. So that was one thing. Now the big thing, before I play this, let's go back to, so I can remind you. So we saw here how his front foot was already starting to open up a little prematurely, which means the front hip is going a little prematurely. Anybody that's been with me for a long time, you've heard me talk about the T drill, which is a drill that forces you to keep that front hip loaded until later in the delivery. It's going to create for more explosive hip action when you go to throw. So once we started, so see how he's got the front foot preset to close off that hip, and he rides that on down the slope. So he's riding that front hip being closed until later on in the delivery. Now let's see what the number, 85.8 the other day, yesterday, on the mound with more adrenaline. This is flat ground. Okay, so flat ground, your flat ground numbers are typically, I don't know, 3 miles per hour, 3 to 4 miles per hour lower than your mound velo. So preset that front foot, front hip, ride it into your delivery, bang, 86. And he hit 86 a few times from this drill. So night and day difference with being able to conserve that energy. I think we could even ride that front hip a little bit longer. And look at the front leg. Look how snappy that front leg is. I mean, if you can correct one thing you're doing wrong earlier in the delivery, everything else that comes after that's much better. Bang! Look at that front leg. Sorry, I get excited sometimes. Just the timing ends up being much better here. Let's see. I'm looking at this for the first time. Let's look at separation at front foot landing. Oh yeah, much better. So front foot strike, front foot's down, right there. Much more separation compared to this. So 85.8 from the mound. Whereas you make this one little correction with keeping that front foot loaded, front hip loaded, it comes through much quicker. So there you have it.